Hey everyone! In today's paddle market, which is super saturated with over 1,700 paddles on the approved list, is it possible to do something different and innovative? Well, there is a company that is. Stay tuned. I'm talking about ProXR Pickleball. This is the only company that I know of that is actually doing something different with the handles. And when I say different, it is something different. Let's talk about each of the models and why I like them and what they have going for them and what they have going against them to help you make an informed decision on if this is a paddle you want to try. So, first one I'm going to talk about is the ProXR Carbon 14. This one here is their base model, and this is made for a continental grip. And when I say it's made for a continental grip, if you look at this handle, it has a different shape to it. Now, let's just talk about some of the specs so you guys know how big this paddle is. It is 16.5 inches long. It's got a 5.5 inch handle with a 4-inch circumference. So smaller handle with a little bit more length. And the paddle is only 7.5 inches wide. So it has a little bit smaller head. It has a T700 carbon face, which generates all the spin of all the T700 carbon faces. You can look here at the microscopic picture of it. Great pattern on this. Let's talk about this paddle and what I like about it. What I do like about this paddle is it forces you to have tip down. So if you like to play with topspin, it almost makes you want to hit topspin on every shot. So for me, it took a little bit of getting used to. I'm not used to hitting topspin on every shot, but this paddle here puts your tip down so you can get good roll shots with it. And what I find is even on the backhand, you can switch to a little bit more Western grip. Eastern grip feels a little bit different here, but it is made for a continental. This handle puts you in a continental. It feels very comfortable, gives you really good feedback on where your hand is at. For me, this paddle needs a little bit more weight. It comes in at 8.2 ounces, but I would add a little bit of lead tape to all four corners just to widen the sweet spot a little because the head is a little bit smaller on these paddles. What I like about that is, though, when you go over the ball, it really feels like you can get over the ball and move really good and get good swiping on there. So really, really good for topspin with this size head. Because these paddles have a little bit longer handles, they come in head light. So that's why a little bit of lead tape will help this for your blocks and your resets, because it is a little bit light on the head. When you hit on the off center a little bit, the paddle will move in your hands. And so just adding a touch of weight at the top and the sides here will help tremendously on this paddle for stability. But I found that my resets were great with this ball. With my third shots were great with this. The drives, I thought the drives were phenomenal because it actually helped me get the tip down so I can roll over the ball and get some good topspin to it. So I found that this paddle really, really helped me on those shots. But overall, if you are a tennis person, this may not be the paddle for you because you don't like the feedback here. What I like is that it also makes it very easy to put the tip up at the net. Because of the way this paddle sits, if you just put your hand straight, look at what it does for the handle. You don't have to do anything with your wrist. It puts you in a good position. So when you're here, you are in a good position at the net with the tip up. And then when you go to drop your hand down, like I said, it really forces you to put the tip down. So really, really helps with the topspin shot. So overall, I like this base model. I found that I could play with it. Took a little bit of getting used to. I missed some shots into the net, getting used to the topspin, and even getting topspin on my dink shots. This really, really helped with that. This paddle comes in a 14 millimeter model and a 16 millimeter model. So got some options. It is definitely worth a try. It feels different than any other paddle out there. I think you should check it out. Okay, the second model in this lineup is the Johnson Cola. Now, the difference on this one from the ProXR regular carbon is this one comes in only 10.5 millimeters, so 10.5 millimeter paddle. It is still 16.5 inches long. It has a 7.5 inch width, and it is only a 10.5 millimeter paddle. So one of the thinnest paddles on the market other than the Pro Kenix and the Diadem Icon. This paddle is just a little bit bigger than those paddles. The difference on this guy is it has a 5.7 inch handle and is still only a 4-inch circumference. It is set up for an Eastern grip. So you can see here the way it is shaped. It is an Eastern grip. So you can put the knuckle on bevel 3, and this is where it feels most comfortable. When you do it here, it feels most comfortable here in the Eastern grip. And I have recently switched to an Eastern grip. My coach wants me to play with an Eastern grip, so I'm trying this out. And this paddle really actually helps me do that. But I found that all the resets, all of the shots that I like to hit, the top spin, third shot drop, top spin dinks, this paddle really helps me with that because once again, with the Eastern grip, you can get your tip down a little bit better. And so you can get your tip down on this and you can really roll over this. With these head shapes, I find that you can really roll over the ball with these head shapes because they're a little bit smaller. Now, because this is a 10.5 paddle, you need to add a little bit of weight potentially to the end of this because it is head light. Because of the extra handle length, there's more weight down here. So the paddle feels very light. It does not feel like an 8.2 ounce paddle. That's because the weight is in the handle. It gets to your big muscles here so you don't feel so heavy. It doesn't put any strain on your elbows. So adding a little bit of lead tape at the four corners of this paddle will really help with the resets. I found that when I hit reset shots or when shots were coming a little bit off center, you could really feel it on the paddle. And if you're holding really lightly with this paddle, with a very light grip, it could affect your ball performance. So just a little bit of weight would be very good for stabilizing this paddle. But I found that with the T700 carbon, just like all of the others, this guy can spin the ball just like all of the others. Got a good honeycomb core. And I found that I liked the handle difference. I'm a handle guy. I modify handles myself. I help people modify their paddles to make them play differently, and I do a lot of handle modifications. So this here is very different. It's very unique, and it forces you into the Eastern grip. It doesn't feel comfortable if you change. I mean, you can change to a semi-continental without it feeling too funky, but mostly this is for you to hold it in the Eastern grip, and this handle really gives you great feedback of where your hand is at on the paddle. But overall, I enjoyed this paddle. I will weight it up the way I like. I like to play them stock so I know how they feel coming out of the box. But I'm going to add some weight to these guys and play them a little bit more. Okay, the last paddle in this lineup is the Zayn Navratil. He recently signed with these guys. This is a 14 millimeter paddle. Same specs as the others. 16.5 inches long, 7.5 inches wide. The difference on this guy, it has a 6-inch handle. So two-handed backhands are very, very good and easy with this paddle. I found that with this paddle, I felt like I could really change grips. I can move it to any grip I want, feel the bevels really pronounced, really good strong bevels on here so you can feel it. And I found that the extra length of the paddle, when you hold down way here on the end, you get some pretty good length out of this. You could probably get a good 17.5 inches out of this if you're holding way down here on the handle like a lot of people do. What I found with these paddles in general is that my hands felt faster at the net because they're a little bit head light. Once again, I would probably add tape to this, lead tape to all four corners up here, just a little bit to stabilize the paddle a little bit, because what I found is that just resets, and when I'm just trying to block, if you're holding really lightly and it hits off center, you'll lose a lot of power there. So it's good to just put a touch of weight all four corners of this guy. It stabilizes this, makes the sweet spot a lot bigger, and this is a very good paddle. I really enjoyed it. I felt like my third shot drops, my drives were phenomenal with it, and it is not a power paddle, so it is still a control paddle, but it's a 14 millimeters. So 14 millimeters give you a little bit more power than the 16 millimeters. I like this paddle and I'm gonna play with it more. I'm gonna weight this up to my specs. I usually play at about 8.5. I'm gonna weight this guy up and I'm gonna get some more rounds in it. Well, that's all I have for these ProXRs. I tell you what, I like innovation. I like a company that is pushing the boundaries, and I can't wait to see what they come up with next. This is a very innovative company, and if you don't really like these paddles or you wanna try something different, check these out. Yeah, those are good paddles too. You can check them out. They're good paddles.